Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I'm going live about now. Uh, Today I am full screen for a few moments before we actually get into the PlayStation technical presentation by Mark Cerny. Today's stream is obviously not Apple themed, so I apologize for that. But whoever joins and still has any questions about yesterday's It's Glow Time iPhone 16 Apple event, I'm of course very much willing to answer questions, debate with you, whatever. But for the foreseeable time, we will be covering what is most likely going to be the official introduction of PlayStation 5 Pro. Supposedly, we are talking about just a 9-minute event by PlayStation, so that's going to be very interesting. When they introduced the PS5, they talked for about an hour about the technical specifications, which is where famously a lot of the ASMR SSD memes kind of came from about Mark Cerny. So it seems now for the PS5 Pro, they decided to go much shorter and just give us the basic gist about the capabilities about the device. I assume they will be talking about PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution (PSSR), which will be used to upscale from 1080p or 1440p to around 4K. So we should be getting much better image quality, even if the raw GPU uplift is only quote unquote about 40%. That would still leave us with about like twice the visual fidelity. Shout out to Max Maximus wishing us fun for today's stream, saying that he will catch me or us at the next Apple stream. So he apparently is not too interested in PlayStation stuff. I know this video will probably get terrible viewership in comparison to the Apple stuff on my channel, but I really care about it. And it's also nothing too long. And I will be covering a lot of iPhone 16, Apple Watch Series 10, AirPods 4 stuff. Well, I don't even know how much AirPods 4 stuff there will be to cover, but maybe some of the reviews once they start coming out. So I don't think anybody suffers if for one day I focus more on PlayStation. But let's see how that all plays out. Yeah, basically, the presentation is in around 12 minutes. So there isn't even that much preamble for me to do as I did yesterday in the build up to the iPhone 16 introduction. Primarily, we know that the PlayStation 5 Pro will go from 36 compute units on the PS5 to around 60. There were rumors it might be 56, with 4 of them being binned, or it's 64 and 4 of them are binned down to 60, or something about in that matter. So 60 versus 36. We don't know exactly how high it's going to be clocked. Probably around the level of the PS5, but then there will also be some IPC gains because it's going to be somewhere in the middle of RDNA 3.5 and RDNA 4, with some customization by Sony on a broad basis, 3.5 based. When it comes to its ray tracing technology, more RDNA 4 based. So a lot of nuance here to consider. It will have 18 gigabit per second of memory, with still 16 gigabytes of that GDDR6 memory. So nothing crazy fast like 24 gigabits, no GDDR7 memory or anything like that, no increase to the bus width. It's still going to be 256 bits. So again, very, very understandable upgrades, given, of course, that we are hitting more and more diminishing returns as more slaw is slowly dying. Definitely when it comes to actual pricing, right? Like we might actually be still on a good pace to miniaturize transistor size, but we are definitely not on a good trajectory on is when it comes to actually making those new smaller transistors proportionally less expensive. So even a small die will get more and more expensive as it gets more and more dense. The transistors are smaller, more efficient, but you have to pay more for that. So PS5 Pro most likely is going to be based on TSMC's 4 nanometer node, whether it's N4 or N4P, doesn't really matter that much. There aren't too big differences there in terms of efficiency. Supposedly the CPU will still be 8 cores of Zen 2. With that, it will also be, of course, very, very much slower than Zen 3 and Zen 4/Zen 5, or especially any X3D variant of Zen 3 or Zen 4, where you get a lot of extra cache, boosting IPC for gaming. That being said, PlayStation still targets 60 FPS. PlayStation 5 Pro doesn't really exist to push games to 120 FPS or higher than that. It primarily will exist to games to, like, for example, I've played recently Frontiers of Pandora, the new Avatar Ubisoft game. It's not great, but it was on discount, and I bought it just to see like just how visually impressive it is, and it looks great. But and even at 60 FPS, it doesn't look bad by any means, but it gets blurry. So I played it actually at 40 FPS, and it looked really, really good, and it was noticeably smoother than playing it at 30 FPS. Especially if you smartly adjust some of the motion blur stuff around it. And PS5 Pro, in my opinion, exists to take those kinds of modes that are around 40 FPS and just push, and let's say the CPU is no bottleneck, and then it will just push it to 60 FPS with very, very similar graphical fidelity. And maybe on top of that, you will still get some superiority in visuals through better upscaling. While a lot of games currently use stuff like FSR2, it's very likely that PSSR will be better since it will use like real AI compute from the GPU. That being said, of course, none of that has been officially confirmed, but it's still like leaks from the likes of Moore's Law is that and other pretty reliable PC hardware, gaming hardware leakers. So I definitely trust in most of that, especially since Sony had come out and blocked some of the videos covering those rumors, strongly suggesting that there is a good chance here that those rumors were actually true. Yeah, beyond that, like the CPU, as I mentioned, will be Zen 2 based, but it will be pushed from 3.5 gigahertz to 3.8 gigahertz. Nice, like a nice like a nice 10% uplift, but supposedly you will need that as like a dedicated mode as a developer. So if you boost the CPU by around 10%, you will have to sacrifice like 1.5 to 2% of max GPU performance, which of course, if your game was actually CPU limited, and let's say you were only getting to like 55 FPS, getting to the 60 FPS and slightly pushing down the visuals by 1 or 2% is an absolute no-brainer. If your game is CPU bottlenecked at 30 FPS, then of course enabling 60 FPS or whatever, just because you now have 10% more CPU power to throw at it, makes absolutely no sense. So while Baldur's Gate might benefit from a mode like that, it still won't give you 60. While Dragon's Dogma might benefit, or Dragon's Dogma 2 to be precise, might benefit from that faster CPU mode, it will not give you a solid 60 FPS at all times. Both games, by the way, should be able to do so. Like, I know Zen 2 is an old architecture and it's not a very performant architecture, but if you spread yourself out on all 8 cores really well, you should really, well, 6.5 cores to be precise, you should, and you still avoid some of the PC problems where the CPU and the GPU have to connect it to, communicate with each other over literally longer distances. On an SoC, that isn't the case. They share caches, they share the overall they share the overall memory, the bandwidth. While that does have its own downsides by, for example, taking away some potential for the CPU to have its own memory bandwidth and stuff like that. So it will take away some from the GPU. It definitely going with an SoC design overall is very advantageous for energy efficiency, for memory utilization, stuff like that. So I'm still very, very fond of SoCs, which of course makes sense as this is an Apple focused channel and Apple currently only builds SoCs. Even the gigantic M2 Ultra is like two SoCs in one, basically. So yeah, I'm definitely also a console fan because consoles, in my opinion, are just much more user friendly than a regular PC. Somebody asked me, would I switch to like Mac gaming if like every like AAA game out there would come to Mac? And I would say yes, but it would literally have to be like every game, which for me primarily includes PlayStation games, because I didn't choose the PlayStation console because, oh, it's a decent console and I don't like Xbox or something like that. I chose it because I actually prefer their first party offerings. Back in the PS4 early days, of course the PS4 was also more performant than the Xbox One, so that played a role in me choosing PS4 versus Xbox One. And now I'm basically in the ecosystem and very, very happy with my PS5. Will very likely hand it down to like my nieces, and for myself keep the PS5 Pro. Guys, I see more of you are joining. Please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, sharing the video out to anybody who you think might enjoy it, and please comment live. Make this a very lively live stream. I love interacting with you guys. Whether you have any questions about yesterday's Apple event, about the iPhone 16, Apple Watch 10 or whatever, or you actually want to talk to me about PlayStation or games or consoles in general or PC hardware, I'm all up for that. Please be active. Please be communicative. That's all very, very much appreciated. If you want to support this channel, please consider leaving a super chat or a super sticker. Any small donation gets reinvested right back into the channel. And if you want to support this channel directly in the long term, please consider becoming a channel member right here on YouTube. Shout out to Fizz, Angelica, and Max Maximus for all MarkTech Pro Max supporter right here on YouTube, or consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. So we are now only 3 minutes away. I'm actually gonna make myself pretty small. I apologize for my aspect ratio, like not being a perfect 16:9, so I'll just play it all in the YouTube app. That way you can see the comment section. The comment section is an absolute mess. It's just people screaming Israel and Palestine emojis at each other. Like, can I go larger? Oh, okay, I can actually turn off the terrible, terrible comment section. But this is a technical presentation. We aren't seeing any games or something like that. So we should be fine. If just a tiny bit of the screen is covered by me, that shouldn't be a game-changing like detriment to the actual presentation. So we are just 2 minutes away. I'm going to bump the volume up a little bit. I'm probably not going to be interrupting as I usually do because, well, usually we don't react to live videos. But, and yeah, the video might actually get demonetized or something like that later on. So again, if you want to support me directly, that would be very, very much appreciated. You can see how Max Maximus left us a generous super chat in the beginning of the stream. Thank you so much for that, Max. Yeah, beyond all that, I mean, while we are 2 minutes away, this is going to be done by Mark Cerny, which I think is very cool that they deliberately state that, who's obviously the chief architect of like the latest PlayStation systems, going back to the PlayStation 4 when he originally pitched Sony to switch to x86 architecture and broadly AMD. And then, of course, followed by the PS4 Pro, the PS5, and now the PS5 Pro. It is going to be very interesting to see, of course, how like what the actual focus is going to be. As I said, in my understanding, it's very likely to be, look, there is some visual uplifts overall for all games, like raster games, but the main uplift will be for ray tracing games. So if you have games that really benefit from ray traced global illumination, ray traced shadows, ray traced reflections, or God forbid path tracing, which I don't think the PS5 Pro would be ready for unless it's like a 2D path traced game, then the benefits will be much higher than the 40% GPU uplift we expect for regular ray trace games. So if I said you get like 40% more for regular ray tracing, for regular rasterization, maybe 2x quality with upscaling. For ray tracing, we've heard rumors that it would be as much as 3 to 4 times better than before. So obviously some big things to come, and especially beneficial for the newer Unreal Engine 5 games. Maybe some of Sony's older games could be upgraded as Sony transitions their engines to higher visual fidelity and ray tracing. But we are just 5 seconds off. 3, 2, 1, let's get started.
Hi, I'm Mark Cerny. I'm excited to be here to talk about the newest addition to our console lineup, PlayStation 5 Pro,
Oh wow,
and
that
how it
was
advances
direct.
gaming technology. But first, I want to take just a minute to look at what we put in the original PlayStation 5 and how it delivers an exceptional gaming experience. When PS5 debuted in 2020, it brought a lot to the table. 8 Zen 2 CPU cores form the brains of PlayStation 5 and enable high-speed, complex gameplay, with character
I
counts
would
reaching
love
into
for
the
them to
hundreds,
upgrade to like Zen 4, but obviously
and
for
frame
like
rates that
perfect
can be as
backwards
high as
compatibility,
120 frames
they
a second.
don't want to jump to a new CPU
PS5 has a
architecture in the
powerful
middle of the
RDNA 2
generation.
GPU, which can render anything from intricate details to fantastic worlds with vast panoramas to
Ghost of
explore.
Tsushima is not a
Ray
PS5
tracing allows
game.
for
It was
dramatic
upgraded,
visual
but
improvements, including reflections off of water or glass,
that game had to
and the
get rid of its
realism
ray
that comes
traced
from
reflections in its
real-time global
performance mode.
illumination. A custom SSD can load data at breathtaking speed, resulting in ultra-fast transitions between game worlds, and data streaming rates so high that traversal speeds are essentially unlimited.
You okay? I'm working on it!
Tempest 3D audio tech brings an unparalleled sense of immersion to the sound of the games. With audio so real, you may not even need to see the enemies to know exactly where they are. Finally, the DualSense controller has haptics that let you feel
and there is
through
part
your
of the
hands
rumor that
what
they
your
would
character is experiencing
introduce
inside
a
of the game.
DualSense with better battery life.
It's
and
wonderful to
better
see such
triggers.
variety and richness of game experiences. Creators have made amazing use of the hardware capabilities, but when I talk to them, I do hear about their desire for more graphics performance.
More graphics.
The dreams of the
not more
developers are
CPU
bigger than can be
performance.
supported at 60 frames per second, and that leads to an aspect of modern gaming that we're all familiar with: graphics modes. It can be a difficult choice for players. Fidelity modes emphasize the visuals, typically through higher resolution rendering.
The assumption is
These
basically
modes might
that
also
PS5
have
Pro will
enhanced detail
take,
or use more ray tracing.
performance modes,
But the games
and
only run
them
at 30
with the
frames per
quality
second.
of,
The visuals can be
fidelity mode.
choppier, and the
Or even
controls
better
less
said, they will
responsive.
take the fidelity
Performance
mode and run
modes
it at
emphasize
60
frame
FPS.
rate and interactivity, typically choosing to run
But I
60
still
frames
would
per
love
second.
modes like unlocked frame rates, for example. Maybe not like
Mainly by reducing the
dedicated
graphical
modes, but
detail
maybe some
until those
settings for me
frame
to
rates can be
actually choose.
achieved. When asked to decide on a mode, players are choosing performance about 3/4 of the time. Removing that decision, or at least narrowing that divide, is one of the key targets for
Oh,
PlayStation
nice,
5
nice.
Pro.
Not completely.
We want to
yeah.
give players the graphics that the game creators aspire to, at the high frame rates that players typically prefer. To do that, PS5 Pro substantially improves over PlayStation 5 in 3 ways. Here's what we call the Big Three. First, we made the GPU much larger and increased the speed of the memory it uses. The result is rendering that's up to 45%
Yeah, okay,
faster.
so that's completely in line with the leaks.
Second, we made major upgrades
So it is
to the ray
lower
tracing,
clocked when
taking a
using all
streamlined and
compute
accelerated
units.
approach that allows calculation of the rays at double or even triple the speeds of PlayStation 5. And finally, we added custom hardware for machine learning and an AI library called PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, or PSSR for short. PSSR analyzes the game images pixel by pixel and can add an extraordinary amount of detail, which boosts the effective resolution of the games. Game creators are adding PS5 Pro support to new and existing titles, and with the big three involved, the results can be pretty amazing, with graphics showing something like fidelity levels of detail, but at double the frame rate. Here's The Last of Us Part 2 running on PS5 Pro. It has huge amounts of detail and targets a super smooth 60 frames per second.
Okay. But at higher
Let's compare this to
resolution.
the fidelity mode on PS5, which is only running at 30 frames per second and is therefore much choppier.
Don't stop! We gotta lose.
This goal of delivering almost fidelity-like graphics at performance frame rates has been achieved for a broad set of titles, including Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart.
Of course
we can
it
see
is.
that PS5 Pro
Insomniac
is close
are
to doubling the
absolute
power
monsters.
of PlayStation 5. Another way to compare the two consoles is to look at PS5 Pro versus Performance mode on PS5, both of which target 60 frames per second. What we see here is a difference in detail. PS5 Pro is much sharper and crisper than PS5. For this, my favorite is the parade scene from Ratchet & Clank. Distant details are much clearer. And here we can see Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is noticeably higher resolution throughout the scene, including the trees and procedural cars. So overall, some remarkable improvement to the games. On PS5 Pro, we can see increased
Damn, I can't
sharpness to the
believe the
graphics,
presentation
or
is
smoother
almost
and more
over.
responsive gameplay. This is the big three showing their value. As you've been seeing, machine learning via the PSSR library is being used quite broadly to add
I hope they
pixel
give us
detail
a
and
date
boost frame
for
rate.
a new state of
But
play
there are as many
right away.
approaches as there are game engines. The increase in raw GPU power is being especially effective for Horizon Forbidden West. Apart from the detail boost, that extra graphics power is allowing for improvements to lighting and visual effects, as well as to the hair and the skin in cinematics.
Open up, guys. Dwarf's orders.
Good enough for me.
Ray tracing is finding broad usage as well, particularly when the games are focused on higher frame rates. The faster hardware in PS5 Pro can make a real difference. Allowing Gran Turismo 7 to add ray-traced reflections between the cars in gameplay,
Oh, nice.
while continuing to support their targeted 60 frames per second.
Nice.
That boost in ray tracing is also delivering big wins for Hogwarts Legacy, allowing not only for better reflections and a greater variety of reflective surfaces, but also for further realism in the casting of shadows.
Oh, wow.
I hope
Both
you've
ray-traced
enjoyed this
reflections
run-through of the
and
technology
shadows.
behind PlayStation 5 Pro. Simply put, it's the most
Give us a
powerful
date for a
console we've
state
ever
of play.
built, and a worthy addition to the PS5 family. Let me wrap this up by giving you a quick look at a number of games running on the new console.
Oh, okay. Games.
You'll never
Oh, the look, of course. Yeah, it's the leak. It's the leak look with three stripes on the sides.
Don't let me hang it.
Oh yeah, the Final Fantasies are getting upgraded. That's really good. I still haven't finished Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
It'll be worth it.
Okay.
TLU 2. Demon Souls gets an upgrade. Okay.
Did I do it?
I assume all Insomniac games at this point.
All in there.
What? That's Assassin's Creed, right? Gran Turismo. Hogwarts Legacy. another racing game. No idea what that game is. Is that Dragon's Dogma? Did we actually get it? 60 FPS Dragon's Dogma? $699 US, or it's 800 fucking euros. Oh my god, that's way more expensive than I thought.
PlayStation.
Gee, I thought it would be $600. Like 600 euros. I mean, it's not prohibitively expensive for me, but like, damn, those are high prices. And this is the digital version, right? Man, at that price they could have included. Man, that won't sell well. That oh my god, this is a high price. What's the chat saying? 700. I like this, straight to the point. This are about the thing of the past. Yeah, I'm not getting the disc version. LLGG 700's crazy. Jesus Christ. LLL. So no built-in drive. Apparently those are launching not simultaneously. 250 more than the normal PS5. Sony's trying to make a good profit on this. Like, there is no acceptance here of any loss making. But my god, like, but that makes sense. Like, the Xbox Series X with 2 terabytes of storage was oh, is that does it have 2 terabytes? PlayStation blog. It's not yet here. If it has 2 terabytes, it's actually not a hugely bad deal. Guys, let me know what you think. Do you think I'm crazy for having expected it to be 600 euros? Or I expected it to be more precise. I expected it to be 600 euros for the digital edition and 650 for the disc edition. This is way more expensive than I thought, but then again, this is an enthusiast device. This is not meant to boost overall PlayStation sales. The main PS5 is still their main console. There's absolutely no way around that. Come on, PlayStation, upgrade it. No backwards compatibility is crazy. What the F are you talking about? Where is optical drive? That's on the more expensive version. I'll gladly pay 700 for one with a disc drive. Well, you probably will be able to get a deal like that. Give us at least a disc drive. Yeah, Sony, can we please get info on the PlayStation blog? You made this such a small like, or is it like is it like on Sony's like PlayStation website directly? PlayStation official site. By the way, strong recommendation for Astrobot, an absolutely really incredible game. You have all the games here. Hit the switch or an Astro takeover. Well, all of that, the pricing explains why there is like no price decrease for the regular PS5. PS5 console. Regular PS5. No PS5 Pro. Jesus, Sony. Can you not do that a little faster? That's embarrassing. Like, Apple was right there the second basically the presentation ended, or like at most a minute later. What are the comments still saying? $699, no chance. This is going away. 700 equals 640 euro. The euro prices include a 19% value added tax. Those value-added taxes obviously become bigger as you get to a more expensive price. So it makes actual sense. Uh, yeah, now I understand why they introduced the price, because if they introduced it during a state of play or a showcase, people would have been livid and it would have overshadowed the actual games. So making it part of a small introduction, like £6.99 is a lot. Uh, no disk drive. Yeah, I mean, I get some of the complaints. Some of them are like, I mean, nobody's forcing you to buy it, but yeah, I can of course still understand some of the dissatisfaction here. My PC already does. Like, no, it doesn't. Like, what? For how much did you pay for your PC? Like, if it does, this is so stupid. Like all, these comparisons are always so worthless by people. Yeah, and people are focusing on the price, but the price exists because Sony wants to make a profit off of it. Like, and they will drop the price in a year or two, like maybe not officially, to like rekindle some sales, but during this holiday season, they really, really plan on making a profit from the PS5 Pro. And if I can finally get some official confirmation, there it is, PS5 Pro. The most visually impressive way to play games on PlayStation. Joseph Aguero, I haven't seen you in a while, brother. Welcome to the chat. Saying I expected more technical details from Mark Cerny. I think people were really dissatisfied with just how much they went into detail with the PS5. I mean, like the rough overview is what basically matters, right? But for example, like PlayStation Super Spectral Super Resolution, right? That shit is like really hard to quantify. So just mentioning it is pretty much enough. Like he could say like, oh, it turns like it gives almost like the game has 40% higher resolution, and if you multiply 1.4 times 1.4, it gives you roughly twice the visual fidelity of regular PS5. And if you add on top of that the 2 to 3x per raster faster ray tracing, that means you get like 3-4 times faster better ray tracing in games. But yeah, features including GPU upgrade, advanced ray tracing, and PlayStation Spectral Resolution take players to new heights. Over the last 4 years since the launch of PS5, we worked hard to continuously evolve the console experience and deliver the great games our players expect from us. Today, I am incredibly proud to announce the next step in that evolution and welcome PS5 Pro to the PlayStation family, our most advanced and innovative console hardware to date. Cooling system uses more power. If it is on 4 nanometer, that kind of uplift that they're describing should be roughly in line in terms of power consumption with the original PS5. So like the 7 nanometer version, maybe like around 250 watts or something like that. I would say definitely like below 300 watts. We developed PS5 Pro with deeply engaged players and game creators in mind, as many have asked for a console that runs even higher fidelity graphics with smoother frame rates at 60 FPS. We achieved this on PS5 Pro with several key performance features. What specific innovations they took advantage of, basically? Well, 4 nanometer TSMC node, so there's more efficiency. A new GPU architecture overall, like when we talk about an upgraded GPU with 67% more compute units, 28% faster memory, while none of that is necessarily innovative by itself, it does deliver a performance uplift. So that's 45% faster rendering for regular rendering, so that mainly means rasterization, and there is some PlayStation specific stuff on top of that. Like Sony usually customizes the GPU architectures they get from AMD. Then advanced ray tracing. We've added even more powerful ray tracing, provides more dynamic reflection and refraction of light. So that's shadows, reflections, and global illumination. Global illumination also including stuff like occlusion stuff. This allows the rays to be cast at double and at times triple the speeds of the current PS5 console. That's of course nice. And AI driven upscaling. Like this is part of like RDNA 4, one could argue, but a lot of rumors said that this is still highly customized by PlayStation. AI driven upscaling, we're also introducing PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, and AI driven upscaling that uses a machine learning based technology to provide super sharp image clarity by adding an extraordinary amount of detail. PS5 Pro provides gamers with amazing graphics at high frame rates. You can hear Mark Cerny, blah, blah, blah. So that's basically the presentation. They've also included stuff like Wi-Fi 7. Man, they really didn't save. Okay, this is like a really premium build. Like the only non-premium thing inside here are basically the Zen 2 CPU cores, and Sony is basically saying those are still good enough for 60 FPS. Like if you really want a massive CPU boost, go to PC or wait for PS6. The other enhancements include PS5 Pro Game Boost, which can apply to more than 8,500 compatible PS4 games playable on Pro. This feature may stabilize or improve the performance of supported PS4 and 5 games. That makes sense. Yeah, it basically just runs the games faster, but it doesn't unlock like new modes by itself. Enhanced image quality for PS4 games is also available to improve the resolution on select PS4 games. Okay, I wonder what that means. If it can go like above PS4 Pro modes. PS5 Pro will also launch with the latest wireless tech, which is Wi-Fi 7, in territories supporting this standard. Yeah, I believe India is like a territory that doesn't play nice with Wi-Fi 7. VR and 8K gaming are also supported. 8K, man. It's humbling to see how game creators have embraced the latest tech from PS5 Pro, and several games will be patched with free software updates for gamers to take advantage of Pro's features. These games can be identified with a PS5 Pro Enhanced label within their title. Some games you can look forward to include blockbuster hits from PlayStation Studios and our third-party partners. Alan Wake 2 makes sense. A lot of ray tracing, definitely not CPU bound. Assassin's Creed Shadows might bring some of higher quality effects from PC down. Demon Souls, which is surprising. I assume it just means that its 60 FPS mode roughly goes from 1440p to actual 4K. Dragon's Dogma 2, a surprise to see here. Maybe Sony worked with the developers to actually optimize it for 60 FPS. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth already had the 60 FPS mode, but at a pretty low resolution. Gran Turismo 7, they mentioned ray tracing in-game. Hogwarts Legacy, I assume that means ray tracing in the actual 60 FPS modes. Horizon Forbidden West, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, The Crew Motorfest, and the First Descendant, and The Last of Us Part 2. I assume most of the regular play, like Spider-Man 2 and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, they do have ray traced shadows in addition to ray traced reflections on PC, so maybe that could be brought over. But like The Last of Us Part 2, for example, it does run at 1440p in its 60 FPS mode. So I would assume that what I just said about Demon Souls, where it just puts that mode into 4K, would plan out. Maurice Muse saying, so ray tracing and slightly prettier graphics up to 60 FPS, still upscaled 4K. You'll wait for Switch 2. Bro, you will wait for a console weaker than the regular PS5 to complain here about the PS5 Pro. Nobody forces you to buy it. This is like saying, oh, $700 for an RTX 4070 just so I can play it 4K rather than 1440p. Yeah, that's what people pay extra money for. That's how it works. That's how the iPhone Pro is better than the regular iPhone. That's how 7900 XTX is better than an XT. Like, yeah, that's how it works. You can bitch about like 60 FPS For one, it does many games already go above 60 FPS. Some games on this list, Horizon Forbidden West has an unlocked mode. TLU Part 2 has an unlocked mode. Spider-Man 2 has an unlocked mode. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart has an unlocked mode. Gran Turismo 7 has an actual 120 FPS mode. I assume that one isn't getting ray tracing, but I assume that one is getting just a visual upgrade. So yeah, it's not 60 FPS limited. It's just that 60 FPS is the target. Like for most games, and most people probably would not want higher fidelity, higher frame rate if it meant giving up on resolution beyond like 1440p, 1800p, 4K. We kept the look of the PS5 Pro consistent with the overall PS5 family of products. You'll notice the height is the same size as the original PS5, and the width is the same size as the current PS5 model to accommodate higher performance spec. Yeah, it has to be, Josepha, to your previous question, it has to be 4 nanometer, otherwise those components wouldn't be very adequately cooled inside here. Players can add an Ultra HD Blu-ray disc drive or swap out console covers when they become available. That's true, by the way. Like if you have one of those swappable drives, you can already attach it. You don't need to necessarily wait for that. Joseph saying, it'd be interesting to compare to a comparable PC build. The PS5 base for $400 makes it an amazing deal in that sense. Yeah, the regular PS5 has basically always been a good deal. This is less of a good deal because the focus here is much more on enthusiasts, but enthusiasts who still prefer the console experience. PS4 Pro fits perfectly within the PS5 family of products and is compatible with PS5 accessories currently available, including PSVR 2, PlayStation Portal, DualSense Edge, Access Controller, Pulse Elite, and Pulse Explorer. The user interface and network services will also remain the same as PS5. It will be available this holiday. Oh, it comes with 2 terabytes. Well, that explains the pricing. Yeah, it would be basically $100 cheaper if it was 1 terabyte. Well, now I will have a 4 terabyte system because I have a 2 terabyte drive inside my PS5. Yeah, of course it's $699 if it has 2 terabytes. Like at $699, Apple sells you like a Mac Mini with an M2 chip and 256 gigs of storage. Like, yeah, I know that's obviously you cannot compare Apple margins with console margins, but this comes with 2 terabytes. Of course, this is $100 more expensive than the Xbox Series X that costs $599 with 2 terabytes, and it's much, much faster. And it still comes with Astro's Playroom, makes sense. It's available as a diskless console with the option to purchase the currently available disk drive for PS5 separately, which I believe is $80. It will launch on November 7th, so very close to my birthday, and will be available at participating retailers and directly from Sony direct.playstation.com. Pre-orders begin on September 26, 2024. I'll definitely be buying it. Our PS5 journey would not be possible without the millions of players that have supported us through the years and have shared with us their love of gaming. Whichever console option player choose, whether it's PS5 or PS5 Pro, we wish to bring everyone the very best gaming experience that fits their needs. The Gaming God, I think you'd wait for PS6 for real. Well, if you're willing to, there is nothing wrong with it, right? The entire point about the existence of the base PS5 is the idea that you're still good with it, right? PS5 Pro exists for enthusiasts. PS4 Pro made up like what, 15% of the overall sales of the PS4 generation. It's a very different proposition to say, in my opinion, that like, oh, I'll just stick with the like the regular PS5 or whatever. versus like an enthusiast who always buys the new. To me, it's completely artificial to wait 4 years for a new piece of hardware. Like I buy mostly Apple Tech, which is upgraded every 1, 2, 3, 4 years, right? While I might wait, for example, I waited like 8 years to upgrade my iMac to my current MacBook Pro, but in the meantime, I had like 2, 3 iPads, 4, 5 iPhones, 3, 4 Apple Watches, like, right? So I had still exciting stuff in that ecosystem. In the PlayStation stuff, you only get this, or you wait for PS6. There's nothing wrong, Gaming God, for waiting for that. I'll just tell you that it's something that a lot of us really don't like to deal with. And to be quite honest, if there hadn't been a PS4 Pro, there would have been a good chance that I might have considered going over to PC. And a lot of people, for example, Mauricio Muse asked, like, well, it's still 60 FPS. Yeah, don't forget that 60 FPS as standard on console is relatively new with this generation. A lot of PS2 games back in the day that were a lot simpler visually were 60 FPS. But in the PS3 era, 30 FPS very much became the standard for console games. And then PS4 took what were often very unstable 20 to 24 FPS games on PS3 and pushed them to 30 FPS. In fact, the entire PS4 generation, you could argue, was remarkably stable. And when it comes to frame rate, it's just that it targeted either 30 FPS or a few titles like Call of Duty targeted 60. Now PS5 made 60 and Xbox Series made 60 much more standard, but now visual fidelity has fallen behind because as we try to get to even higher visual fidelity, ray tracing, things like that, it's hard to give you high resolutions with that 60 FPS. And PS5 Pro comes along and with those big three that Mark Cerny mentioned, gives you now basically what PS5 gives you in fidelity modes, but now gives you that visual fidelity in performance modes. Yeah, this one doesn't seem to have a disc. There were rumors that a disc version might come out later, but you can still buy the disc. Joseph had saying, seems the Slim and Pro of this gen won't be the big hits of the previous gen. Well, PS5 is basically selling about as much as PS4 did. But at this point in time, the PS4 Pro was already out, right, by over half a year. It was, or by a year almost, it was $400, and the regular PS4 was pushed to $300. Now we have a generation where the discless PS5 is $450, and the PS5 Pro, the discless version, the digital version, is $699. But that $699 version comes with stuff like Wi-Fi 7, which I definitely didn't expect. This thing, like, I know it doesn't play a huge role for most people, but it's like, it's crazy that it has Wi-Fi 7 to me. It has 2 terabytes of storage, which we know Sony uses like almost highest end storage. Like, yes, technically there would be like PCIe 5.0 storage at this point, but let's be honest, over 5 gigabits per second, close to 6, is still incredibly fast, still isn't cheap. You still buy like a 1 terabyte drive for like around $100. So you add that, you add the higher performance, you add the fact that this is obviously in 4 nanometer, which is more expensive to make, and then you add the fact that Sony definitely isn't building an enthusiast device and then accepting like more loss on it. So this is made to generate like $50 to $100 in profit, while the regular PS5 is more like designed to at most give you $50 of profit. Like maybe after a year, if the price actually holds, Sony would expect it to make like $120 or $150 of profit. That might sound insane by console standards, but those are very, very acceptable margins across the industry. Smartphones, tablets, laptops, desktop GPU components, CPU components, all usually have higher margins than that. NVIDIA operates at like 60% margins. I still think that some stuff is weird, like the vertical stand, in my opinion, should at least be included. I'll definitely be buying it, so this is probably yet another tax on enthusiasts here. But yeah, in my opinion, this is a very, uh, like, it's they definitely didn't do themselves favors by adopting certain technologies here. Like, I assume they could have gotten price down by $100 if they gave you like Wi-Fi 6E, 1 terabyte, and maybe made the system tiny bit smaller, gave it like worse cooling where you could almost always hear the fan or something like that, and be done with it. But this definitely is a premium device. Yeah. So that's basically my first impressions here. I assume that a lot of the media coverage will be quite negative. I might check it out later. Guys, we've been streaming for almost an hour. If you're liking what you're seeing, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, sharing it out to anybody who you think might enjoy it. Comment live. I love interacting with you guys, agreeing with you, disagreeing with you. And if you want to support this channel directly, leave a super chat or a super sticker, or become a channel member right here on YouTube, or a supporter over on Patreon. Did they change SMT with the controller? Oh, SMT, like just something. It doesn't say that. Like, we've heard rumors about there being like a better battery life controller, but they don't specifically say that. Maybe they just produce so many dual senses at this point that it just didn't make sense to upgrade it, but it's not mentioned here. Like, if I go just to the PS blog, like, I doubt they would make a specific mention for the DualSense 1.5. But they recently increased like DualSense prices by like $5. So Can you hear me now, guys? What the? Why did it add a double? Okay. Plus. Okay. Okay, now you should be able to hear me again. I just deleted all my audio sources and added them again. OBS just hates sometimes when you disconnect like audio playback stuff, like for example, my earpods. And it just decided to, for some reason, mute my microphone. And then I re-added my microphone as a new source, deleted the old one, but deleting the old one muted like the new source. That was just insane. Like, and yesterday during the Apple event, like my OBS just crashed my entire PC, like my Mac, but kept working in the background somehow. So my stream still kept on going. And I was just in constant panic that it would like crash fully, right? You know what I mean? Like the OBS has been really an absolute nightmare in those small little things, because it's like you cannot fully rely on it on Mac. Like, so yeah, by the way, what I was saying before I got so rudely interrupted by technical issues is I wonder if PS5 Pro is fully compatible with the backplates of the new PS5 Slim. Because if it is as slim as the Slim, but it is as tall as the original, but it makes up for it by having this larger gap between the individual portions of the plates, right? By that logic, the plates should fit, and then you must quit. And then when you actually think about it, the thing that proves it is that the back plate, the white back plate, yeah, OBS be OBSing. It's bitching around, but that's what the B stands for. Like the fact that the backplate portion of the removable disk drive fits onto it, to me strongly suggests that this will be compatible. I don't know if Sony would have like upgraded their websites already for that. Jesus, what's up with Sony's website, or is it my internet? No, I have basically 0 dropped frames, so my internet cannot be the issue. Oh, that's just the PlayStation blog post. PlayStation 5 accessories. Deep Earth collection. Nope. PS5 console add-ons. So like vertical stand for PS5 consoles. Model group slim. What does that mean? Josepha, do you use iCloud private relay? No, never. Especially not for stuff like this. I would never use like a VPN or private relay unless it ever like turned itself on somehow automatically. But no. Disk drive. So the disk drive. PS5 Digital Edition. Sony still hasn't added like the PS5 Pro to any of this. Man, this is what I like about Apple though. Like Apple really like once they upgrade their website and all, like sure sometimes there might be a mistake or something like that. But saying that will often make browsing slow down. Yeah, I do have an ad blocker enabled, but it usually isn't that problematic, right? I do sometimes have like random connectivity issues with my Wi-Fi, but that's just the carrier, quote unquote, the ISP provider, because I have like a new router and everything. But yeah, I assume that like the reactions are very negative. Like they probably, there's now a chat, right? $700 with no vertical stand and disk drive is insane. 700 is downright insanity. No disk drive is a deal breaker. $700. It ended so probably after the price reveal, like they just threw a flashbang in the room and ran. $700, $800 for background detail in the game. That was just one example. Like, shut up. Like, I hate when people like focus on like such small details. And no disk drive, 700. Yeah, so Sony leaving the comment section on is actually very brave here. It's stunning and brave. PS5 videos. It's PlayStation 5 Pro console. Okay, so they haven't yet posted anything about the state of play or any kind of like upgrade here. Yeah. Oh, let me just briefly check how much is that vertical stand because I'll be buying it. It's $30. Okay, it's still too much. It should be 20, but Jesus Christ, Sony does like making their profit on accessories. Can I switch to the German website? Country? No. PlayStation? No. PlayStation.de. Let's see how much it costs here in Germany. Well, we know it's $800 for the console, and then for accessories, wireless controller. How much is the DualSense, by the way, here in Germany? It's $75. Okay, that's okay. And now I do wonder though, what will they do with the price of the PS6? It will at least start at $600, right? Because it will be like PS4 Pro started at 400, and then PS5 started at 500, or let's say 400 for the digital version. Like, what happens with the PS6? Does it start at 700 again? Blah blah blah. The vertical stand, how much is it here? It's 30 euros. Okay, and it's available in one color, black, because that's the color matching the insides. But yes, they, like, when you look at even like the compatibility, it doesn't say which PS5s it's compatible with it, but it's obviously compatible with the PS5 Pro and Slim, and this is why they've said it shares like the slimness of the Slim, but it's as tall as the original. And the disk drive, which I don't really need, is 120 euros. Jesus Christ. What happened there? Like, are there some licensing issues? Because no amount of 19% like value-added tax would add $40 to an $80 price point, or they're just way more aggressive on the pricing in the US. Jesus, that's a high price. But yeah, I already have a 2 terabyte drive inside my PS5. So I guess I will have 4 terabytes inside my PS5 Pro. That's actually really funny. But yeah, beyond that, there isn't actually that much to cover, right? Like, we did have our PS5 Pro introduction. It was a small event, was 9 minutes. It was a lot of anger in the comment section about the pricing. I explained why with 2 terabytes, there's very little way around it, but I know the internet will still be perpetually angry. And somebody here said, I'll wait for Switch 2. Brother, how much internal storage? Do you think there is even a chance that Switch 2 comes even with 512 gigabytes of storage, much less a full 1 terabyte? Like, what was the latest rumor on that? Switch 2, like, and that storage, by the way, will be like 4 times slower than what is on the PS5 Pro. On my it's about what yeah, right, there's rumors that it would come with 256 gigabytes of UFS 3.1 storage, which, by the way, UFS 3.1 storage is slow enough for in the higher end mid-range of Android devices to get you laughed at because it's not UFS 4. So anybody who's like saying, oh, I'm waiting for Switch 2 for a better deal, my brother, with the margins that Nintendo likes, that just ain't happening. But yeah, that's about the like my analysis of the PS5 Pro. It's unfortunate that Sony is still leaving some details up here in the air. I'm glad they gave the price because that will give the media some time to just vent about it and then get back to normal. And once the actual PS5 Pro comes out, people can just analyze it with a much clearer mind. I'll get back to more Apple coverage in the next coming days. I promised, obviously, everyone a very iPhone 16 and its glow time focused week. But I really wanted to do this live stream because I do care about PlayStation and I do care about this topic. But yeah. That's basically it. There's only so much I can get out of a 9-minute presentation. There are definitely interesting choices here. With 2 terabytes, the pricing does make perfect sense to me. And with Wi-Fi 7 and with more ambitious like stuff in general, like I wish it would have moved to like Zen 3 or Zen 4 CPUs, but just for backwards compatibility reasons that wasn't going to happen in the middle of this generation. So I am pretty satisfied. I would have been somewhat disappointed if it was 800 euros with only 1 terabyte of storage, but like 2 terabytes of storage in the Apple realm is like $800 by itself, just for some context. So in here you get an entire PS5 Pro with it. But no, seriously, I understand why some people are dissatisfied with the pricing, but this is an enthusiast device. And in an era where Sony has struggled to actually make profit on the regular PS5 hardware to the point that they actually increased the price of the PS5 digital, increased prices across regions like, well, basically everywhere, but like especially Japan, where currency has been weak, this to me does make sense. Whether or not it makes sense for you to still buy it, that's a different discussion. Maybe we'll have it some other time. Pre-orders start, what did they say, September 26th. So once that happens, we will likely be looking at reviews. I might react to some of that, and then I will let you know what my experience has been. But that's about it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know this isn't the typical Apple discussion that we have, so I'm very grateful that some of you still stuck around with me for that. And as always, let me know what you would like to see me cover next. Do all the YouTube jazz, subscribe, like, share, comment. Consider leaving a small donation, becoming a channel member here on YouTube, or a supporter over on Patreon. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you all so much again. This is Mark Tech, tuning out.